Welcome to the show Gold Squadron Gays. It's the podcast where two Star Wars loving gays talk about and review their favorite Star Wars content while also being gay as hell. I'm your host, Bradley Brower.
I'm your other host, Charles Rogers, and Bradley just found out that on the Switch 2, he could theoretically play Star Wars Outlaws. Statement assumes Bradley will ever be able to afford a Switch 2.
Yeah, I need a job first, so maybe we'll just wait a year.
Hey, you should watch Bradley's shows that he's worked on so they get renewed for another season, so they hire Bradley back.
There you go.
The only reason that I would in any way support Temptation Island continuing it in any form whatsoever would be so they can cut Bradley a check. Speaking of cutting checks, Bradley, we're recording these episodes kind of in advance because you're going to Japan much sooner than I am, and I'm losing my goddamn mind trying to prepare for it.
I just want to get there and forget everything exists. Like, I just want to just go.
You know what? I don't even when you were like, yeah, I'm going for an extra couple of days, and I went, good, get out.
Yeah, just gotta
go
get
enjoy
out of the country.
yourself.
Like, I just want to enjoy myself for sure.
But we decided, since we have been talking forever about watching these movies, that we were going to talk about the Ewok movies.
Yes, a choice for sure.
A choice for sure. Now, I do have to correct something that I said on the last episode. I wasn't 100% sure whether or not anyone else in my sphere of podcasting, like the shows that I listen to, had ever covered these movies. And I did find out. I went afterwards and I found out Hope and Chris from J Guys and Jedi have actually done episodes on these movies before.
Really?
So we are not the first.
Okay.
But they are the only other ones that I know that have done episodes on these movies.
Yeah,
also, they've done 400 episodes. This does not surprise me.
I guess, yeah, eventually you're going to have to run into it and do it eventually.
Eventually, I feel like eventually everyone gets to a gap in the production schedule and they're like, what are we going to throw in here? And inevitably they're going to have to throw in
They have
the
three
two
options
Ewok movies.
they're like vintage stuff. They're like, what other vintage stuff can we throw in here?
We got a ton of options. Just wait until we cover the Ewoks animated TV show episode by episode.
Can you imagine?
Oh Lord, we could do it.
Look, here's
I
the
could
thing.
do it.
If it ever got to that point where we were that desperate, we could do it. I'm sure we could. I'm just saying, I hope that enough Star Wars content is coming out in the next couple of years that we don't have to do it, is the question.
Yeah, I would prefer to make the active choice. Bradley and I have talked in the past about as we move into this next era of Star Wars, because very clearly they're slowing down the shows. This is something very obviously that they're doing. And like, where do we go with the podcast of taking shows like, Star Wars Resistance being the big example, and maybe doing them as we can,
right,
in between something else. So that may be something to look for with the Gold Squadron content as we move, especially when the movies start coming out. They're not going to want to crowd them, so they're going to have these huge gaps.
Right.
We'll see. But today we're actually recording both episodes back to back, but in our first half, we're going to be talking about Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure.
Okay. A movie you made me watch.
A movie I made Bradley watch. My only regret in life is that as of recording these episodes, we live on opposite sides of the country.
I know. I'm so pissed we could not have watched this together. Honestly,
I would love to have, not even for content, just like watch Bradley watch this movie.
That was the one thing is I do regret is that we did not have the ability to record ourselves watching this together, because the react video of this would have been so fucking funny. Like, just because I literally have notes, like, and they're not normal notes. They're not like, oh, we need to talk about this or da da da. It's literally like my first note is miniature horses, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Like, it's just stupid stuff like that. Like, Wicked can talk now. Like, it's just dumb stuff like that. Like, it's
spoilers
so
for Caravan of Courage, by the way. We are going to spoil major plot points of this. This damn near 40-something-year-old movie.
Yeah.
Damn near 50-year-old movie, actually.
Is it almost 50 years old?
It was
When did it come out?
It's closer to 40. It came out in 1984, so it came out 41 years ago.
And this came out between the two movies, or no?
No, this came out
Oh,
after
after Revenge of the Jedi.
Return of the Jedi,
Return. I'm sorry, Return of the
which
Jedi.
used to be Revenge of the
I
Jedi.
was Hey, I was
You
close,
were
right?
close. You were
No, I
close. You were
have
close to the
Revenge of the
original
Sith on my
title.
mind because of the anniversary this year. No, yes. Okay, so it came out after the third movie, which technically, if you think I'm trying to put my brain into the mind of an 80s nerd, these were essentially the next movies, right? Like,
Kind of.
kind of. Okay, what's the
They.
backstory?
Oh, you want the
Yeah,
backstory?
give me the
You want the
backstory
backstory
now.
now? Okay.
Yeah.
I need to preface this by saying I hated watching this movie.
Okay.
It was a intensely painful experience.
Hmm.
Because watching it and sitting there and like watching the whole thing in a row,
Yes.
like watching it from beginning to end like a movie, did not enjoy it. Did not enjoy it whatsoever. And about 30 minutes into the movie, I stopped and I went, I need to find out who is responsible for this movie. I need to find out who to blame. And so I went on a massive, like, reading a whole bunch of stuff online
Right.
about this movie and actually, like, came away with a much more favorable view of the film. It's still painful to watch, in my opinion.
Right.
Like, but knowing what the movie actually was helped a lot. So here's the crazy backstory of this movie. I'm going to
Okay.
shift in
I'm
my
ready.
chair so I can tell you the backstory of this movie. So George Lucas has kids.
Yes.
He has three of them. And one of the kids, Amanda, really loved Ewoks. Like, loved the Ewok as a kid, right? So, backtrack a little to 1978. I'm kind of paraphrasing the Wikipedia stuff on here. There's obviously more to the story that's like on Wikipedia, and then people that have been involved in the thing, like in the movie, have written books about this
Hmm.
movie. But 1978, George Lucas does the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Okay.
This production is a fucking disaster.
Yes. Historically, yes.
And part of the reason why it's such a fucking disaster is that Lucas kind of was involved sort of in the genesis of the Star Wars Holiday Special
Right.
and then kind of went hands off because he was dealing with other stuff. And so when it came time for him to do the next thing after Return of the Jedi, which he wanted to be a TV special, he decided to be much more hands on with it. So he's going to personally oversee this. And because his daughter, Amanda, really loves Ewoks, George is like, okay, I'll do a 30-minute TV special about Ewoks for my daughter, basically.
Sure. Right.
Does the whole thing basically for his daughter. He gets a bunch of people that are like in the Lucasfilm sphere to work on the movie with him. And they hire a guy named Thomas Smith to be the producer. Now, Smith goes around to a bunch of TV studios, a bunch of TV networks, and is like, hey, we have a 30-minute special about the Ewok
Okay.
from the Star Wars movie. Do you want to air this? And every single network said, that sounds fucking stupid.
They said, fuck no.
We do not want to air that.
Right. Okay, fair.
Until they get to ABC. And ABC is like, that sounds fucking stupid, and we don't want to air that as a half-hour special. However, we do run 2-hour movie of the weeks.
Oh,
And if you can stretch this movie out
from
to
30
2
minutes
hours,
to 2
from 30
hours.
minutes to fill 2 hours of TV airtime, we will let you air it as a TV movie.
Mm,
So, two
okay.
important key details about this movie
Yes.
are that number one, it was stretched out significantly.
Uh-huh.
The script was. And number two is that it aired on TV. And that's important to the enjoyment of watching the movie. Because here's my secret to getting through Caravan of Courage, right? Here's where I landed on once
Uh-huh.
I had researched this a little bit. Whenever the screen goes to black, pause for about 5 minutes and do something else. I
It's
am
really
dead
funny.
fucking serious. I am not even a joke. It is dead
No,
fucking
that's
serious.
actually a good advice.
I genuinely do think, because the thing about this movie is it's very like, do you remember how I think it was last week we were cracking a joke about how, oh my God, this story's just the Odyssey?
Yes.
Everything's the Iliad, everything's the Odyssey. They're just
Yes.
doing Gilgamesh again. This one is kind of an Odyssey-like story to
Yeah.
where it doesn't necessarily have a linear plot
No, at all.
so much as it has bite-sized
Moments.
episodic moments
Moments,
that one
right.
follows the other. And if you view them in the context of like being part of a TV experience, I think they read a lot better.
Right. I'm wondering like if
I
someone
don't know
who's
what
more
your
talented.
experience was because you watched the whole
No,
thing in one
I
sitting.
agree. I thought it was very boring half the time. I was like, what is going on? Like a lot of it's very transitional. Like we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And it's like I get, which I understand in the context of the story is called the fucking Caravan of Courage. Like, so they're going to be caravanning a lot, but like you're giving me, the Hobbit journey without like the interesting parts. Like you're giving me the boring parts of the Hobbit journey,
I
right?
think I
Like I don't
literally
necessarily
texted
need
you at
that.
the end of the movie. This is just Fellowship of the Ring with all
That's
the
what I'm
boring bits
saying.
still in.
Exactly. Like they didn't edit out the stuff. So I'm wondering like where's the phantom edit of the Caravan of Courage is what I'm saying. Like someone who's more talented than me, edit out like the boring shit and like pare this down to
Well,
probably
here's
less than
here's the
45
issue with
minutes.
that.
Like
Here's the issue with that. George Lucas, did you ever actually watch Willow, like the movie Willow?
I never watched the movie, but I watched the TV show that was temporarily on Disney Plus.
The movie is very like this. This is
Okay.
a George Lucas does fantasy thing.
Ah,
Is when he's doing like fantasy, which this movie very much is.
hmm.
He loves to do those like episodic little set pieces as you move along.
Got it.
And it's also like, because there's one extended section in the middle where like they have this whole experience with like these light sprites
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
randomly in the middle of the movie. And like, I'm sure it was very impressive in 1984. That's another thing. The effects in this movie, I'm trying to figure out how I want to phrase this. So it's very, very clear that this movie was made on a TV budget
Okay. I was gonna say,
because some of the
yeah.
effects are imaginative, but it's very clear they weren't using like top of the line ILM. Like
Right.
they weren't putting the money into this that Lucas is famous for with projects. That's one really interesting thing about watching this movie actually is that like the stop motion is really choppy. Like the bit
It's
where the
not as
light sprites
clean.
are
Yeah.
dancing isn't as clean.
Yeah.
And it's because they've talked about this. I found like people who were working on the movie who were talking about the budget. This is not a case where they were just throwing Lucas money at it, which really surprised me
Right.
because that's Lucas's MO is he just throws money at things and he trusts that it's going the creation of the art is going to be worth it. This they were operating on a TV budget.
Right. Which is why, like, I hate to say this, but this is why I don't think that I know that when Lucas was interested in TV a long time ago, when he thought of doing the Underworld TV show or whatever, I was like, I don't know if it would have worked because
It wouldn't
it
have. It was too fucking
it
expensive.
was too expensive. Like it just that doesn't like not now people do spend that kind of money on TV shows. So I think that's why Mandalorian and things like that work because they're semi movies, right? They're not necessarily old TV shows, but
Yeah, and that's what
yeah,
Lucas would have wanted for Underworld. But
sure.
this was also his thing with the Clone Wars is he paid for the Clone Wars.
Right.
And he was throwing it's easy to forget going into Clone Wars seasons 1 and 2 that that is a very expensive show. And Lucas is throwing a lot of money into pushing like the boundaries of what animation can do, and that is really impressive for the era. This one is like Caravan of Courage is interesting because you can see the limitations of the budget on them.
Right.
And where it's also interesting, I forgot to mention this. So let me look up the guy's name. John Corti
Okay.
is the gentleman who is credited as the director on this movie. But, and this will be especially relevant in Battle for Endor for the listeners next week, but for us in about 30 minutes. Lucas is very personally involved in Caravan of Courage. He
Okay.
directed some of this movie.
Really?
He was the second unit director for this movie.
That adds up.
So he co-wrote the script and he directed parts of the movie.
Yeah.
So you can really feel like Lucas's style, especially if you've watched Willow,
Yeah,
which
I
was
will
not
say that,
directed by
yeah.
Lucas, but Lucas was really involved in. It was directed by Ron Howard.
I can feel the difference in the two films for sure. Like, not to go too much into the other one because everybody is spoiler for next week. You'll get to hear my thoughts on the next movie, but I could see a difference drastically in these movies. Like, they're two totally different, like
We'll
in
get to why that is
everything.
next week.
Okay, great. I also want to bring up, I just read something where they filmed the whole movie on Skywalker
Mhm.
Ranch.
This
I
movie is
love
dirt
that.
fucking cheap.
No, I
It
love
is
that.
dirt fucking cheap. The cast is like entirely people that were already playing the Ewoks that they had around, I do
Right.
believe.
It's
They
definitely some of the
definitely
same
had
people
the
for
Ewok.
sure.
It's some of the same people, I'm pretty sure. They have Warwick Davis back, obviously.
Which was nice. I actually liked the fact that he was in it. I thought that he was actually the best part of the movie, which
They have the
was
costumes lying around. They have
yeah.
some of the sets lying around.
That's really hilarious. Fun fact, I just read this too. They had to develop special eyelids for the Ewok costumes during a sleeping scene where they're asleep because Ewok costumes don't blink. So
Right.
they had to add eyelids to them for them when they were sleeping because the costumes don't blink, which is actually the Ewok costumes are so creepy in hindsight, actually, because if you watch this movie and you're like, they like appear and they don't blink at the characters, and you're just like, oh my God, what is that demon bear doing
What is
here? It's
happening?
so funny. God, this movie. If anything, this movie is a camp and I love it. I mean, for that aspect, I find it hilarious, right? Like it's just a campy time.
Oh, when they were in the final sequence in like Gorak's castle or whatever, and it's just like the most ridiculous shit I've ever seen that they're doing. And I'm like, this is so ridiculous. I'm having so much fun with the last 15 minutes of this movie. Individual scenes that do not make a lot of sense, like narratively,
Yes.
that are clearly just added that are there. So there's this whole scene where Wicket gets a magic stick from Logray as part of like the
The
giving of
thing.
gifts that is handed out. It's very Lothlorien in Fellowship of the Ring. Here's a bunch of gifts. Go
Right.
nuts. He gets a magic stick that we're told is magic. And then a couple of scenes later, Mace, who is the main character of this movie,
Right.
falls into a river, and like when you fall in it teleports you to the bottom and then you can't get through the surface
Right.
again,
It's like glass or
and they
something. You
have to
can't get
use
through,
the
right?
magic stick to break the surface so that he can get out.
Uh-huh.
It does nothing for the plot of the movie.
Makes no sense.
It really does nothing for Mace's character. There are
It-
some scenes where
yeah.
he's clearly developing his character. This is not one of those scenes, but in it on its own, like its
Mhm.
own little moment, I loved that moment. I
No,
thought it was
it's a good dramatic
hilarious.
scene. It
The
just
Ewoks all
doesn't make
trying to like
sense.
figure out. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the thing about this movie. It makes sense if you think about it like a TV movie that they stretched out from 30
Right.
minutes to two
Well, it's
hours.
almost like this is the episode where this happens, right? Like it's very
Mhm.
mini, it's a very mini episode, but it's definitely like well, in a normal TV show they would have padded that out, right? They would have added another 10, 15 minutes or whatever. If this is technically I guess maybe a 30-minute show,
Wicket
then
would have been
yeah.
doubting himself and
Right.
like
There'd been
doubting
a whole
his
subplot. Yeah.
gift, and there would have been a whole subplot, and he would have had to learn a lesson. You could have
Right.
easily stretched this out into like a 12 episode
Oh, miniseries or something.
miniseries.
Like this definitely could have been a miniseries for sure.
Yeah.
Caravan of Courage. This you could have done everything where every single episode was them passing another magical test or some bullshit, which is why I didn't understand this plot at all because I was like, I could tell the first half of the movie was the little girl getting sick, and then they were like, "Oh, we have to get medicine for you," and like that's a whole plot, right? The plot
That is
is
a whole plot. By the way, there's a connection to Skeleton Crew. Did you notice the very first line of the movie has a connection to Skeleton Crew?
oh, what is it?
The life monitors.
Oh, okay,
So the very first line of the movie, or one of in the first
yes,
conversation at least, the dad who
right,
is Jeremit Tawani is the
okay.
character's name. It's either the dad or it's Katarine Tawani, who's the mom. One of them mentions like, oh, at least the kids are like wearing their life monitors because they have these bracelets that basically just tell you if the other person's alive.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand the subplot of that either, but okay, that was actually more of a complaint in the second movie, but we'll get
That
into that. Yeah.
that makes more sense. Like literally means nothing in this movie. Like all it does is just reassure them that like the parents are still alive.
Right.
Winds up being used to much better effect in the second movie,
Correct.
the opening of the second movie. But yeah, the life monitor is what KB
Oh,
is
okay, okay.
using. Yeah.
I
That
was
the
like,
moms mention in
got
that
it.
scene in episode 3 where they're like, her life monitor is out of range or something. They say something to
Understood.
that effect. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
we need to go.
you were talking about the Sindel plot in the first
Yes.
30 minutes of the
Well,
movie where she
this is
was
why.
sick.
Okay. Okay. So there's two things I want to mention with this. Okay. So the
Okay.
first thing is, yes, I can tell that the Sindel plot of her being sick, Jace having to go get the
Mace.
medicine or Mace, Jace. I was thinking Jason Sindula.
I
Mace.
was I was thinking Jason Solo.
Okay. Well, I guess because this is technically Legends, that's closer actually.
This is
Um.
also technically Legends. This should happen.
Yes,
And we will talk about the timeline before the end of the episode, but I
we
don't
will.
want to.
Okay. Let me focus because this is important. Okay. So
You got to get through this
I gotta
point.
get through this point. This point is the movie of plot of her getting sick, him getting the medicine, and Wicket helping them. That is the whole movie. That I can tell, and reuniting with the parents. That is the actual plot, right? Is the first half of the plot is I'm sick, I'm better, now we can go find our parents. The second half is we go find our parents. I could see how that was stretched out, right? Because that plot line of her getting sick and then getting the medicine is just the kind of opening part of the movie. If you think about it, that could have literally been 10 minutes and then like, oh, she gets the medicine, she's better. Now we go find the parents. That's the second 15 minutes. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's there's no in between crap of finding a magical river and all the go find
There's
every single member of the Fellowship of the Ring. Like we
there's
don't need to do that anymore.
kind of a three act structure going on here.
Kind of,
Sort
yeah.
of if you squint, it's
I
there.
guess.
But this is not really written with that in mind.
No.
I think in the way that movie number two is. Movie number two is written like a movie. And we'll get there. We'll get there for us
Right.
in about 20 minutes. For y'all in about next week.
I also have like one random question, and then this is just like about the
Okay.
plot in general.
And then I have to talk about the Legends timeline of this movie.
For real. But my plot, the whole entire premise of this entire movie, okay? Why? So the ship obviously crashes of somehow
Yes.
their ship crashes, right? And so the parents
Somehow
and the
their
two
ship crashes.
right, they don't explain anything. There's no opening crawl, there's nothing. It's just they're crashed. They're on this planet. And then the parents are by the ship by themselves, and the kids are missing. And then the giant comes and kidnaps the parents somehow, or chases them
Sure.
away somehow, whatever, right? Why are the kids missing? They never explain where they went to, why they left, whatever. And then when
Well,
it comes back
Sindel
to
is
the
in
parents,
the Sindel is hiding in the ship.
okay, so
But
she's
they
already
yeah,
on the
they
ship.
don't explain where the fuck Mace is in
Right.
the
So
opening scene.
his plot line, I guess, of him not being at the ship, right, doesn't make sense because then later on he's like, I'm so guilty about leaving our parents and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, then why the fuck did you leave the ship? Like, what is the perp? You didn't explain why you left. I guess the brother's just dumb, like because every single thing he gets into in this whole movie is like him like not following the rules of the Ewoks or not listening to them because he doesn't see them as people or something. Like he's like, I'm gonna go do whatever the fuck I want to do. Like there's a part where he like puts his arm in a tree for no reason, and then the monster like almost like eats his arm, and then Wicket and family are like, "You fucking idiot! Like, why didn't you do that? We have to now kill this monster for you." Like, it's so funny. Like the plot
Oh,
of
he's
this
an
movie.
idiot through
Throughout the whole
at
movie.
least the first two-thirds of this movie. Like he has one moment like at the beginning of Act Two where they meet the woodsman for the first time. They meet
Uh-huh.
the brave woodsman, and they have like an axe throwing contest. Because this kid has randomly decided, like, I have picked this exact moment to decide to, like, get really uppity about my axe skills, apparently. And it does demonstrate for us that he is a really accurate, like, axe thrower. It's just
Right.
the Ewok is better. But other than that, like, yeah, he's. It's a problem with having kids as protagonists. You just make dumb decision after dumb decision after dumb decision. And I will say that both of the actors who are playing the kids, I'm not going to say the girl's name who's playing Sendel, because this is like really her only credit.
I saw this was her first movie.
It's her. She's got three credits on
Yeah.
IMDb.
Good for her.
Two of them are these movies. Clearly, I don't know if she wants anything to do with these movies, so I'm not going to
I
put her on
I don't want
blast.
to dog on her too
The
much
guy
because
playing. Also, I thought she was pretty good in this
she was
movie.
pretty okay. I thought
For
now
a
I will say
5-year-old,
right.
she's really good.
No,
Like
no, no. I do want to say, like, yeah, I want to preface with like, there in no way, shape, or form is she like a masterclass actor, but yeah, she's clearly like this is her first acting gig, like,
it's
and that's
clearly she's
fine.
5 or 6 years old. She's
Yeah,
doing a really good job
she's doing good. But
for
I actually
that.
thought the brother is actually really pretty decent. in
The
this movie?
brother I am gonna name. The
Okay.
brother's being played by Eric Walker.
Okay.
And I am gonna name him because he's very important to the story of why we're watching this movie in the first place.
Oh, okay. And what's that?
Because he was the person who originally these movies were not on Disney Plus.
Ooh,
Eric Walker has been a very fierce advocate for these movies,
really?
which makes sense. This is one of the main things that I think he's known for
Sure.
is these movies. But he actually got a petition circulated to add them to Disney Plus, and he was like really instrumental in like making Disney aware these are things people want to have access to. They want to have access to these movies and watch them. I also thought he did fine in this movie
I think he did pretty good. I do have one random complaint,
with the
and
god awful dialogue that they wrote
well,
for these
okay,
kids.
this is my complaint. It's not his acting. My complaint is the dialogue.
Oh, the dialogue for the
Holy
kids is so
balls.
bad.
When I tell you, I wrote
Oh,
down like almost 6 times. I was like, they always seem to whoever wrote this. I sorry to dog on you, but like whoever wrote this
oh,
movie,
I'll dog on you. It was
okay,
George Lucas.
okay. Every
George
single
Lucas and
line,
Bob Corral are the
okay,
two people who wrote this movie.
here's my problem.
I'll dog on him.
Every single line that most of these characters have, they repeat the same phrase after they already say their line. So, for example, he says something like, he's like, "Don't worry, don't worry." Like they repeat their lines
Hmm.
constantly, and it's like, why are you repeating the same line right after you just said the thing? You don't need to do it over again. Like, it's really weird. It's almost like it's what it seems like is if the kid was doing like a second take, but just doing it back to back and they left it in.
You know, I think you're probably right.
That's what I think it is. I think they did that for either ADR or like they just did it because they told the kid like, hey, just say it twice so that just in case the
Say it
first
a
one's not
couple of
good.
times. Yeah, say it a
Right.
couple of times.
That's what I'm thinking actually happened because it's so strange every time I catch it in the movie. Like most of the characters will say the same exact line right after they've just said the line, and I'm like, why are you repeating yourself all of a sudden? And I could maybe justify it when they're talking to the Ewoks a little bit because like obviously they're not speaking basic sometimes
Oh, yeah, yeah. We'll talk about that in the second movie in particular.
because
But
it's more offensive in the second movie.
oh boy, the second movie with regards to
No, because I'm not even kidding you. Like in this one, like there was a moment. What did I write down? I said Wicket's dad suddenly speaks basic, and he's just like, "We will help you." And I'm like, "What?
yep,
Jump scare!"
randomly this
Like,
happens. Though they kind of establish like there is a lovely scene between Sendel and Wicket
right,
where she's kind of teaching him
which is
a
fair. Yeah,
couple of words, which I actually did like. Anytime Sindel and Wicket can interact in
Oh,
this movie, and it's
yes,
just them interacting,
agreed.
is precious.
I love that.
Like, and that was also not to get too much into the next movie, but I do think they recognized that those two actors did a really good job of working off of
I
each
agree.
other. And a lot of the heart and soul of these two movies is the growing friendship between Sindel and Wicket.
I love that. I also, I'm just going through my notes because I'm just like,
You're
before
just
we get to
going
the
through your
timeline
notes.
stuff, I want to get through like just like the
We already
random notes I
covered the
have.
miniature horses that are
Yeah, I
randomly
have miniature
here for
horses.
some
Okay, I'll talk
reason.
about animals for a second. The amount of random animals that are in this movie.
It's a
Uh,
fucking ferret in this movie.
There are just farm animals randomly in this movie. There's a moment where Wicket has a pet weasel. Like,
Yep.
why? It's so random. They also have a bunny in the house. Like, there's like, I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what is happening? There's all these random barn animals and things. Like, because Cindel's holding the weasel at one point in one of the scenes. Like, she's petting it like it's like their cat. Like, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, anyway, that was really funny. What else? I said the magical test, the water. I didn't know guns also had lasers. I don't know what that one is, but oh, guns have lasers. Okay. There was a moment where one of the characters has the gun. I think it's what's his name? I think it's Mace. He has his gun and he's like he shoots his gun, but a laser comes out like a long-term laser, like it's like a constant laser versus a
Oh,
quick
yeah,
rapid
where
laser.
he's shooting the rock at the end of the movie.
Yeah, and I'm like, where did that technology come from? But okay. And then I just thought that was really funny.
Well, here's the
Um,
thing. Here's part of the thing, right?
yeah,
These movies existed in an era before Star Wars was really solidified.
Right.
And it's the most obvious, I think, in Splinter of the Mind's Eye and the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Hmm.
But we're still in that era when we reach these movies. And again, the Ewoks are learning to talk in this movie, which is not a thing that ever happens anywhere else in Star Wars.
Right.
They will only speak in the Ewok language, but because there's no real such thing as canon at this point. And if you look at like the Marvel comics that were coming out during this period, it's a bunch of wild, crazy stuff.
Right.
And then like there's a period around when Bantam Books is publishing and I think Marvel's still publishing at that point, but I'm not 100% sure. Before Phantom Menace, before Dark Horse, before Del Rey, that was really when, like around 1999 is when we start solidifying this idea of what Star Wars is. And this movie also has things in it from like before there was a solidified idea of what Star Wars is. Like you wouldn't have random fucking horses in
Right.
Star Wars now.
No, not
They're
anymore.
just in
Yeah.
this movie
Well, it's
because
weird because they're like, yeah,
there's no
there's
Star Wars
just
lore.
randomly there. I don't understand it. Well, also, it's weird because they're miniature horses in the first scene, I think. And then in the second scene, they're ponies. Like they're actual, just like regular sized horses that are just small. Like it's really weird. Like they're clearly actual, genuine miniature ponies in the first scene. And then it's like after that, when they're actually riding them in the caravan, like they're just regular ponies. Like it's the weirdest thing. I don't know why. But I thought that was really weird. There's one random thing I did want to bring. This stupid special effect that I just noticed
Okay,
that was bad.
give me the stupid special
When
effect.
the spider comes down when they're in like the cave or whatever, like you can clearly see the fish wire like string like of them
Yep.
dropping. That was hilarious.
I love the like fan film vibe of this.
Oh no,
Like I described this to
100%.
you and I
Yes.
described this to other people as is this George Lucas just making his own fan film? Which that was the moment in researching the production of this movie when I started to like this movie.
You're like,
That
it's just
legitimately
them
that was
putting
it.
on a film. Yeah.
When I was watching it like as a movie, I was like, this is boring. This makes no fucking sense.
Yes.
This is interminable to watch. We have a narrator here who is portrayed, by the wonderful voice of Burl Ives, but still kind of a pointless narrator who's just here to explain the plot of the movie to us.
Well,
What the
that's
fuck is this
because
that
the
I'm
Ewoks
watching?
don't talk. Like, so it's
What
like,
the fuck is happening? And then I realized, oh, this is just George making a fan film.
yes.
And as a fan film, it's a pretty good fan film.
I
But
cannot.
yes, you could see some of it in the effects and
Yeah,
how
the effects.
ridiculous the
I'm just
little
like,
effects are.
why? I did also randomly, in terms of effects, like, so the Gorax costume. So
Because
it's
sometimes it's stop
obviously,
motion and sometimes it's a guy in the suit,
yes,
and
it's a
you can
guy.
tell.
This time it's a guy in a suit. There's two things why I thought it was funny. One, the wig or whatever they used for his hair on top of his head for this costume is clearly just a wig that's been like sewn on to the costume or whatever. Like it's a Halloween wig like that they added to it. He has the most luscious hair. Like it's this he like keeps flipping it around like he like the wig. Like it's really funny. And my other thing is that like every time he looked at them, like he clearly has human eyes. Like it's very much like a guy in a costume. Like you're just like, that's a man with human eyes. Like I know what that is. That's not a creature. It's just thought it was so funny. But the Gorax was just, I thought it was more funny than anything. I didn't think it was that bad, but I just thought it was really funny. I only have two random plot things I need to ask you before we get into the
Okay.
timeline. And actually, one of them was answered because there's a second movie. So that I can cross off my list. Because my one thing was like at the very end of this movie ends and they're just still on the planet. Like they're not like there's no
Yep.
effort to escape, there's no effort to like clean the ship, whatever. So was this always intended? Because like they just fuck off. They're like, okay, we'll live with the Ewoks now, I guess, forever with our family.
Well, I
Like
guess they're
we're
gonna
done.
repair. It's implied they're gonna like repair the ship,
I
but
know, but they
also
don't
they have no
nothing to
fucking
fix
money,
it.
Bradley.
I
They
know,
have
I
no
know.
fucking money to make this movie. They are making this movie on $5 spit and duct tape.
Oh, it's apparent. Okay,
Yeah.
so
So clearly they're not gonna have a whole scene where they fix the
clearly.
ship.
Okay, but here's my two things I need you to answer. Maybe they answered this, maybe they didn't. And maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Okay, my first question is why would Mace So his gift or whatever that the Ewoks gave him was a rock. And he's like, fuck this rock. I don't want this rock. He throws it away. Wicket picks it up because he's like, no, that's a gift from the shaman. We have to keep it, right? And then it ends up they need the rock later. But when they need the rock later, they break the rock and then there's a fucking metal arrowhead magic thing inside. I'm like, why would the gift not have just been the fucking arrowhead? Why was the gift the rock with the arrowhead inside of
Because
it?
Mace needed to learn a lesson.
But he didn't learn the lesson because he didn't bring the rock with him. Wicket
Uh,
was the one who brought the rock with him.
Look, I think you're looking for way too much sense in a George Lucas script.
I just wanted some semblance of plot, like what, because Mace doesn't learn any lessons. He learned, well, he does learn
Well,
that,
no,
I fucked up.
according to the narration at the end
Yeah.
of the movie, they
Uh-huh.
learned a lesson that loyalty and bravery and love is very strong.
That's the lesson in every fucking movie. That doesn't care. That doesn't mean anything. He didn't learn that. What he learned was he was being a little bitch, and Wicket was the only one who saved the fucking day because Wicket's like, don't throw this trash away. We need it for our fucking journey later on, maybe. Who knows? I know it's a rock, but who knows? Anyway, that was just one random thing that I had a question on. This other thing, maybe I just missed this, but at the end when Mace releases the fairy or whatever and she like fucks off, he's like, fly away, Ezarina or whatever. He gives her a fucking name. I'm like, did she even have a name
I
at
think
any
she,
point in time during the whole entire movie until up until that point?
again, I think you're looking at this. I have ruined you for watching movies. And
This movie in
this is
particular.
this movie in particular, because this is the problem, guys. When you hang out with me as often as Bradley does, it changes the way you watch movies because I point this stuff out.
I just had so many lingering questions. Okay, so part of my lingering questions was, and you did mention this earlier, when does this movie take place in the Legends timeline? Because this is important to me,
Okay,
a
so
person that watches the
the
movie.
Ewoks, it presents a bit of a problem because the
Right,
Ewoks do learn to talk in this movie, and they
right.
can clearly understand basic in this movie,
For the most part, yes.
which is a real problem because part of the thing with Return of the Jedi
Okay,
is that the Ewoks and the Rebels don't understand each other,
right.
and they need C-3PO to translate.
Correct.
So I found in my research that when they were making this movie, they kind of were assuming it took place after
You'd have to.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
And there was some difference, like they thought that it was like 150 years later. I don't know how the fuck that makes sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make
But then
sense.
there was some schools of thought that's like, oh, it's, the next year or et cetera, et cetera. No, these movies are in the Legends continuity. So
Right.
they are not canon, but they are part of Legends. They take place between Ewoks, the animated TV show, and Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, see, I don't buy that.
And this is the explanation for
Hmm.
why Wicket has toys that look like the AT-AT Walker in the movie, because they had something went on with the Empire in that animated show. And
Oh,
that's how
okay.
they encountered the Empire.
Got it, got it, got it.
Now, the lingering question is, how do we resolve the basic problem? And the explanation that was given by lore nerds whose job it is to try to make this make sense is that Sindel and her family are speaking a different form of basic than the rebels on Endor in Return of the Jedi. And that is being translated into English for us, the viewer, but they are actually speaking different languages. That is the explanation for how this happened.
Fuck all the way off. That doesn't make it no.
Oh, hold on, because it gets better.
Okay.
Because Sindel, this is not the last time we see Sindel, these two movies.
Hey.
We will see Sindel again in the novel Tyrant's Test. She turns up as an adult working as a reporter. That actually happened.
She works as a
And
reporter. Okay.
she works as a reporter on Coruscant in Tyrant's Test.
Okay.
Yep. Welcome to Legends.
Okay.
It's a little tricky trying to make it make sense.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I think. Okay, but here's my thing.
It's so funny. It's always so funny to me when I start laying down like
Yeah.
how Legends had to do things for its continuity to
Right.
make it make sense. Like
So yeah,
everybody was confused when the Ahsoka novel and the episode of Tales of the Jedi kind of seem to contradict each other.
Right?
Oh no, welcome to
No,
Legends.
that's nothing compared
Good
to this.
fucking luck.
Yeah. No, no, no.
Trying to make this make sense. I have been reading through some of the old Clone Wars novels.
Okay.
The bending over backwards. They had this whole multimedia project that was like created that all made sense. And then the Clone Wars movie came out and the Clone Wars TV show came out and it fucked all that up.
Yeah.
It fucked it all up because that's G canon. That's what was called G canon.
Right.
That was George Lucas made this, and so it is canon. It is a canon above everything else. Now we have to account for it. So they have to like shift things around in the timeline. Like Jedi Trial was supposed to take place 2.5 years into the Clone Wars and now takes place within the first year, purely because that's a book where Anakin, like right before he does his Jedi trial to become a knight. And in the Clone Wars, which is only a year into the Clone Wars, it was established that he was already a knight because now he has a Padawan. And this is the kind of shit that we had to deal with in Legends.
So this movie is G canon
This movie is, I believe, G canon.
because he made it. So
Well,
this
let me.
subverts any other
That is
canon
an
at
excellent
the time
question. I believe the answer is on Wikipedia.
in the
Let me
legend
find
section.
out. So, no, this is C canon.
What the
Which
hell is
let
C
me.
canon?
I'm going to find the exact answer for you. Okay. C canon refers to, quoting directly from Wikipedia here. C canon, referring to continuity, consisted all licensed properties, thus including most of the expanded universe. Whereas S canon, with the S standing for secondary, encompassed work that were created before Lucasfilm tried to maintain an internal consistency within the expanded universe. So basically, even though George Lucas was really involved in this one, I think because he's not the primary lead on it, it
Oh,
was
okay.
still demoted down to C canon. So G canon was George canon. C canon was everything else is largely considered expanded universe.
Right.
S canon is secondary, which is it kind of works if you can make it work. And in canon is non-continuity.
Okay. So in terms of would this work in the current Star Wars canon, I'm gonna be a bit of a toxic fanboy, and I'm gonna say any canon that they established previously for this movie, throw that out the window. This comes out directly after Return of the Jedi. And I think it
If I
still
were
works.
slotting this into
Yes.
into canon, that is where I would put it.
I think it still technically works. I don't, there's nothing in it that is inherently egregious that would cause anything bad to happen if it comes after Return of the Jedi, right? Like, I don't think there's anything in it that is that bad or weird. Like, Wicket kind of can understand basic. The family basically picks it up pretty quickly anyway. You know what I mean? Like, so that doesn't, and they've already had a kind of a, with the rebels and stuff, they've kind of preemptively been exposed to it. So it's probably a little easier to learn,
It makes
without,
sense.
right? It makes sense. So
The
I'm going to say that
only
it works.
the only element that I think it makes more sense to have Return of the Jedi sort of be the third in this trilogy is Wicket's much more of an active, like young adult warrior in Return of the Jedi. And in these movies, he's played very much like an older kid.
That's true, but I'm gonna just chalk it up to the war's over. I don't
I
know.
think
He
his
can be a kid
character
again.
arc,
Like, I
I
don't
think
know.
his character arc makes more sense if this happens
Well, that's true. We're
before the
trying to
movie, but
also
everything
pretend there's an
else makes
arc in
sense
this.
if it's happened. I mean,
I
Mace kind of gets an arc, but
Well,
not
let's
really.
talk about it in just terms of basic plot. I'm not talking about character arcs or anything. Like in terms of just like the things that happen in this movie plot wise, technically, it could go after the movie and be fine. Like there's nothing
Yes.
that changes anything or
There's
whatever,
absolutely
right?
nothing that would alter anything.
Exactly.
They
So
exist completely separately of each other.
I could have a headcanon that this movie still happens after Return of the Jedi and no one is worth the wiser because the book that Sindel shows up later on is not canon, so I don't have to worry
Correct, that
about
is Legends. You don't
I
have to
don't have
care
to
about
worry
that.
about that shit,
Although,
her growing up.
although,
So
although, if you have played Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, there is a reference to these movies
oh god.
in that game.
And what's the reference?
There is a sort of sliding block puzzle that you do. So one of the things, the game kind of has like an open world thing going on with
Right.
different maps. And for the Bright Tree Village map, so the indoor one, you can find like a sliding block puzzle. And when you put it together, it makes a photo of the 20 family. So anyway,
Well,
these
yeah.
movies are canon, actually.
They actually are canon, technically, if
They actually
that's
are
true.
canon. No, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is not canon. It is
Maybe.
a parody.
Oh,
Except
you're right.
it
You're right.
does
It is
it
parody
does
canon.
try
Yeah.
to explain like a canon discontinuity.
I think it's
That's
parody
I
can
don't
like
have
it's
time to get
yeah,
into
yeah, yeah,
all
it's weird.
that.
Anyway, so
It tries to explain the Rancor name, and we don't have
right,
time to get
there's
into all
it does
that.
try to do stuff. Okay, so my final thing for this, I don't even
Okay.
have final thoughts on this movie because it's just the movie is the movie.
The movie, that's a great way to put it. The movie is the movie, and I do think Star Wars fans that are interested in the history of Star Wars should watch this movie.
Agree
Maybe
100%. I
just
think
when it
it's
cuts
yeah.
to black, pause, get up, and go pet a dog or something.
I think
Go do something else for 5 minutes and then come back.
if there was ever a Star Wars history class or whatever, like this would be like a week of like the curriculum is like these two movies. Like we have to watch them, we have to analyze them, we have to talk about what happened during the time of like it just makes it's part of history, right? My actual final thing that I want to ask you is like, should they remake this?
No, absolutely not.
But like
You
good.
no, no.
Okay.
Here's
Second
here's
half of this
here's my
question.
weird little thesis. Here's my weird little thesis because I think
Yes.
the reason why the movie's so interesting
Uh-huh.
is because it's not good.
Okay. That's fair.
I think the elements of it that make it not enjoyable to watch in 2025 as someone who is accustomed to 2025 movies, those elements are what makes the film such an interesting watch. Like there's a reason people watch these movies and then think about them a lot. It's the same with the Star Wars Holiday Special, except this isn't weirdly sexist and also racist. We don't have anyone doing blackface in this movie,
No,
which
that's true.
puts it above the Star Wars Holiday Special. But I do think the parts of this movie that aren't what we expect are the parts that make it really interesting to watch and
Right.
think about and talk about.
That's fair. I think I just would like to see it in the Tales of the treatment. Like I would love to see like a Tales of Endor and then just have them just reanimate these two movies into like a couple episodes just to kind of like just have a visually better like thing that's concise and that can still be canonized, but like you know what I mean? Like take the history of it, like of the plot basically, if there is a plot, and then
There
but
is a plot.
give the good
Events
animation.
happen in this movie.
You're right. There is plot
There
in
is
Wink.
plot technically.
Things happen in certain scenes. But no, I think just like that animated treatment would be an interesting watch. I know I can't have everything animated forever, but I think one of the things that I think Lucasfilm would and should do is to kind of to keep the spirit of the what I'll call the vintage stuff alive or the OG trilogy alive is to animate what would happen after Return of the Jedi. Like keep it animated because then you kind of keep the spirit alive. You don't have to recast anybody. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Like, yes, they'll do different voice actors, obviously, but like because it'll visually still be, you know, Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, whatever, Ewoks, all that crap. Like then you're kind of saving yourself a little bit. Like you don't have to be like, oh, we had to recast and everybody was pissed off because we got some young hot person to play Han Solo. Like, you know what I mean? Like I just
They
would save
did
them
get
a
a
lot of
young
time.
hot person to play Han Solo.
That's what I'm talking about. So I don't know. That's just my thought. Anyway, Caravan of Courage, interesting. Please go watch it. It's on Disney
I
Plus.
do highly recommend
Yes.
watching this movie.
You need if you haven't seen it, go watch it.
Temper if you made it through this entire review and discussion of the movie without watching the movie, I highly recommend you go and watch this movie.
100%. And what's great about that is you won't feel like you're wasted your whole time because this movie is super boring. Because guess what? There's a fucking second movie.
There's a sequel. Yep.
There's a goddamn sequel. So
And we will talk
not in
about
vain.
that fucking sequel. And here's, I'll say this. We'll end on this so that we
Yes.
can go, because you and I are going to immediately go and record the sequel
Right.
movie. I had never seen this movie
haven't
before I
either.
watched it for this podcast.
I love it.
I rented the second movie all the fucking time as a kid.
Really?
I loved that movie.
So you
I
really
loved
didn't know
that
how they
movie
ended up on this planet.
so much. I had no idea. I went into the second movie cold and we watched it a bunch.
I love
when
that
I
you
was
didn't
a
even
kid.
have to watch the first movie to watch the second
I,
movie. But okay.
We will get to that when we talk about the second movie. So,
Okay.
hey, you have an entire week, listener of this podcast, to go and watch the second movie
That's right.
and then come back and we will record we will talk about Ewoks 2 The Battle for Endor, the best Star Wars movie. Pluggables. Bradley makes a bunch of reality TV. Most of it I hear is pretty good. The stuff I've watched is we'll talk about it someday. So you can find him involved in such shows as Married to Medicine, The Circle, Queen's Court, and Temptation Island. You can also find me on the Star Wars TTRPG podcast For Light and Dice, a TTRPG set in the High Republic era. You can also find books that I write available online. Those are called Beach House Studios. Those are queer mystery thriller. You can also find a Star Wars fan-run Legends convention where, yes, you can come talk to me about the Ewoks movies. That is going to be in Burbank, California, September 13th through 14th. That is called Legends Expo. Tickets and information is available at legends-expo.com. Well, I'm sure the second movie will definitely pick up exactly where the plot of the first one left off, and we will definitely get closure to this movie in the second one. Just run our socials. Thank you for listening to Gold Squadron Gaze. Did Charles fuck something up? Email us at goldsquadrongaze@gmail.com and let us know. You can follow us on BlueSky, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Gold Squadron Gaze. Subscribe to us on YouTube at Gold Squadron Gaze, where we post full episodes of this podcast. If you like the podcast, you can also rate us and review us on your favorite podcast app of choice. Please join us next week and every week for another episode of Gold Squadron Gaze.
Well, I might as well buy a Steam Deck at this point if it's going to be $400.